The 18 Strong Podcast, episode number 93. Happy Father's Day.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzero.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, and this is Father's Day. I'm actually recording this podcast on Father's Day and want to wish all of you out there, all the guys out there, happy Father's Day. And I want to dedicate this to not just you, but also to my dad, who has been such an inspiration to me and everything in my life, and has been such an example for me and my brother and my sister. And so, Dad, happy Father's Day. It's kind of interesting how the timing worked out with the topic of today's episode and Father's Day and my dad, because today we're going to talk about basically, it's summertime. It's the time that many people are traveling and going on vacation. And my dad, when I was growing up, went on a lot of trips. He's been in the travel industry for ever since I can remember. And so he was always kind of on the road here and there, gone a week at a time, and then would be back for weeks and then gone another week. And continues to this day to do a lot of traveling into different areas. And I never really realized how hard it can be to stay on track when you go on vacation and you're traveling, you're sleeping in hotel rooms. And we've talked about this on the podcast in regards to the tour players and the difficulty that they have, traveling from week to week, yes, in great locations and accommodations, but how hard it can be to be in a different spot, to have your rhythm and your routine kind of messed up, and you're not sleeping in your own bed, you're not eating your own food, you're not in your own kitchen. And so I never realized until recently, and now that I've traveled a little bit more, and I plan to do quite a bit more traveling in the future with 18 Strong and some of the things that we have planned out, but never really realized how off track you can get during some of those situations. And so for those of you that don't know my dad, he's a very fit guy, always has been. He's always been a runner, and he's always been able to, stay kind of in the rhythm as far as I could tell. Obviously, I wasn't on a lot of these trips with him, but, being able to maintain his weight and his physical ability, and he's always been athletic and played soccer. And so, it's just kind of cool that this all worked out. So just recently, this past week, we went on a trip. We went to Table Rock Lake. Went down basically to the Branson, Missouri area, played a little golf, and so I wanted to share with you, some of the things that I struggled with, and what were some of the things that I did well and didn't do regarding fitness and golf, and what my intentions were going into the trip, just as far as maintaining a healthy diet and things like that, versus what were my actual results. What did I actually do, and then what would I have changed if I were going on the trip again next week? What would I have changed? So basically, I'm just going to give you a couple tips around kind of 5 different areas. Golf, eating, exercising, drinking, and basically relaxing. That's why we all go on vacation. That's why we all go on these trips. And I know that many of you go on golf trips with the guys or with the girls or with a group. And so this can kind of fall into that realm too. But I'm kind of looking a little bit more on, a vacation where you're gone for a week, maybe with a family or with a group or something like that. Not necessarily totally golf driven, but most of us are going to try to play a round or two or more of golf while we're gone. But this is going to be kind of my experience, and then what are the tips and tricks that I used and what I would suggest. So just a quick little background on our trip. We went to, as I mentioned, Table Rock Lake, and we stayed in just a small little, we went with my brother-in-law and his family, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and then my wife, Susan, and our 3 kids, Sam, Reese, and Grant. And we all stayed at a kind of, rustic location. We all had little cabins, nothing fancy, but it's a great, Table Rock Lake, if you've never been, is such a cool, quiet, huge lake, but it's not nearly like some of the other big lakes that you may have been to with these huge boats and tons of real estate and condos. It's way more low key than that, and that's why we've gone there several times. So we stayed in these small cabins. It's owned by kind of a mom and pop organization, and we spent a lot of time at the pool. We spent a lot of time at the dock, swimming and fishing, and just kind of hanging out and enjoying each other's company. And my brother-in-law and I, we went and played golf, and we did some other things. we played golf at Buffalo Ridge, which is, if you haven't heard of this place, it's part of, basically Bass Pro. The owner of Bass Pro is a guy by the name of Johnny Morris, and he owns Buffalo Ridge and what is now also Top of the Rock, which they have a Champions Tour event at the course Buffalo Ridge, and then at their 9-hole par 3 course, which is called Top of the Rock, which we only got to see a little glimpse of that, but Top of the Rock is its own entity in general, where they have a high-end fine dining restaurant. They've got an incredible driving range. If you haven't seen that, Google Top of the Rock driving range. It's all turfed out, but it's the most beautiful thing you'll ever see. It's got bunkers, it's got cliffs, it's got waterfalls. And so we went and saw that, and the people at Top of the Rock were very nice and gave us a private tour. Shelby was awesome. Thank you, Shelby, and thank you, Jason, for setting that up. And we went and toured the Natural History Museum. We went and did the Lost Canyon Cave Tour, which we took golf carts. It's a 2.5-mile trail. You just take golf carts and you're seeing waterfalls, and you actually drive through a cave with, I think, a 4-story waterfall in it. Just amazing stuff. If you haven't taken a trip to the Midwest and seen some of the beautiful landscape that we have here, which I really hadn't been able to appreciate until I saw some of this stuff, it was amazing. But long story short, I'm hopefully going to have somebody from Top of the Rock. Ideally, it'd be awesome to have Johnny Morris on to talk about the vision of this place. But there are several golf courses that are being built down there and transformed. Arnold Palmer has been involved, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Ben Crenshaw. All these guys have kind of collaborated into this amazing place, which I guarantee is going to be a big golf destination in the near future. And Buffalo Ridge was top of the line, one of the best courses that I've played. So hopefully in the near future we'll have a little bit more info on that and really be able to give you guys an idea of what's going on there and some of the experiences down there, because there's some great stories. Okay, so let's jump into the different areas when you go on vacation that can be a bit of a struggle. And we're going to start out with golf because that's why we're here. We all love golf. And so a couple suggestions that I have when you're going on a trip and you're gonna go play and you want to play your best round, and maybe you're on vacation, maybe you're in a setting where it's not normal, which is what we were. Adam and I, we were getting ready to go play Buffalo Ridge, and we played it a few years back when it was Branson Creek. But what I would suggest is to get yourself ready and be prepared to play the best golf that you can. Most of these tips are going to be about planning ahead, right? So we had an 8 o'clock tee time, and it took 35 minutes or so to get to the course. So the idea is if you're in a situation like that, you want to make sure that you plan ahead the night before. So, if you have to get up early, here are a couple things you need to think about. What are you going to eat for breakfast? So, ideally you want to get something good in you to kind of hold you over for your round. If you're going to warm up at home, is that something that you want to do? If you like to get a full-blown warm-up in, which is something that I highly suggest, and I did that. I woke up a little bit early and just did a couple little stretches. I didn't go through a full-blown crazy warm-up, but I wanted to make sure that the body was moving a little bit before we just drove straight out to the course. So I did some stretches. I got out the old rad roller and rolled around a little bit and, did a little soft tissue work. And then, I would say that I wasn't great on my breakfast. We were, we were in a little bit of a rush because we didn't quite plan out our time well enough to get a good breakfast in and all that stuff. So, just did a little bit of the protein bar, did some of the grass-fed butter in the coffee, which really helps hold me over. But then we went to the course. So then you got to think about, okay, how much time are you going to need for your warm-up on the course? Do you need to get there 30 minutes ahead of your tee time to do what you need to do? We had a great conversation in our private Facebook group, the Bogey Proof Lifestyle, which is still kind of the in beta version, so we're getting ready to release that to the public soon. But we've got a good core group of people in this Facebook group, and one of the things that we talked about was knowing what you're going to do when you're getting to warm, or when you're going to warm up before your round. So what exercises are you going to do? Are you going to do those at home, or are you going to do them on the driving range? And, how long is that going to take? And then what are you going to do at the driving range? Are you going to hit a bunch of balls, or do you have any kind of a structure to your practice? Do you just go out and hit every club? Do you go out and actually have structure to a little warm-up that you have? And I know different people have different suggestions, and I would love to hear feedback on what has worked for you. So if you want to go over to our Facebook page and just find the link to this episode and just post there, we would love to hear from it, or just post it on our Facebook page. Also, what are you going to do in the short game area? Are you going to go putt? And what do you do to putt? Are you working on your distance control? Are you simply working on 3-foot putts? Are you hitting any bunker shots? Are you hitting any short chips? That type of stuff. And then something that most people just kind of neglect, and I'm guilty of this, and I was guilty of this past weekend, is just getting your cart ready. How long is that going to take you? Getting the balls out of your bag, and if you're drawing your name or initials on your ball or whatever, loading up your pockets with the things you need, your tees, your ball marker, all that stuff, your snacks. What snacks are you bringing? Are you getting something from the pro shop, or are you bringing those? What drinks are you bringing? Are you are you going to load up a cooler beforehand or not? And we're going to talk about some of the drinking and alcohol stuff a little bit later, but I know that a lot of guys will go and they'll load up a cooler prior to, or load up a cooler full of water, which is highly suggested. So just some of those things. And then things that I would recommend that you keep available in your bag just to help really kind of give you the best shot of staying healthy, staying hydrated. I like to have a shaker bottle on hand, like to either mix up a protein shake and, a little powder of protein. But I keep that shaker bottle in your bag, because sometimes you don't have access to a good cup for ice and water. So you can fill that up and put some ice and water in it. You can also bring along, some protein bars, and some sort of an electrolyte drink or something. And I'm not talking Gatorade. We've talked about this in the past too. I'm talking more of a typically it's a powder that you'll mix in, and a couple good ones are Amino Vital and BioSteel. It's like an amino acid and electrolyte drink that's just going to help keep you better hydrated. So having something like that on hand, and if you have to pack that ahead of time the night before. And then last thing that I like to keep in my bag is a small resistance band, just to help with the warm-up on the course, getting the shoulders ready, maybe getting the hips ready a little bit. So just some of those things are the things to think about when it comes to golf and getting prepared prior to your round. All right, so the next topic that I want to jump into is eating. And again, we're talking not just in relation to golf. We're talking more the vacation portion, or being on a trip and being kind of out of whack, out of sequence from your regular routine at home. And, it's hard enough to eat well at home. We all struggle with that. And I know that many people deal with, wanting to lose weight and get leaner, and also working on your diet for performance. And it's hard to plan that stuff out. And that's, the fitness and weight loss industry is one of the biggest industries because of this kind of thing, because it's hard to do. But it's even harder to do when you're traveling, when you're on the road. So what I want you to think about is look at your accommodations first and foremost. Where are you going to be? Are you going to be eating out more, going out to restaurants? Or are you going to be cooking in, or making lunch and things like that? So where we were, and the place was called the White Wing Resort. When we were at White Wing, basically we knew that we like to have a very laid back and chilled out vacation. We'll go out to eat maybe once or twice. We're usually going to order pizza one night. We've got a bunch of kids and family, and so sometimes the easy thing to do is to order these things. But we also knew that we had access to a grill. Each of our places had a little grill, and so we figured, hey, me and Sue will cook a couple nights, Adam and Nora will cook a couple nights, and so we decided, let's get some meat for burgers, some chicken, some pork. If we were good enough to catch fish, we would have cooked up some of the fish, but that didn't happen. But then get a bunch of veggies and things like that. So think about how many days of the week are you going to cook? What are some of the things that you might need grocery wise? And go to the local grocery store and stock up on your veggies, your fruits, waters, things like that. And the hardest part about vacation, I think, is sometimes because you're on vacation, it's almost like letting loose. I'm just going to let all my walls down. So being able to resist the temptation to go down that snack aisle and just go crazy and get, the Doritos and chips and things like that, and all the different processed food. So if you kind of plan ahead of time and say, hey, look, even though I'm on vacation, we're going to eat a little bit better than we normally would have on vacation, and we're gonna go with that intent when we go into the store and get some of these good things and stock up on those. So when we do get hungry during the middle of the day or in the evening or whatever, you can go and snack and graze on those things as opposed to just grabbing a bag of chips or whatnot. So again, my suggestion would be get some good beef, chicken, pork, some veggies, potatoes, fruits, all that stuff, and then that stuff, once you cook it, that can be your leftovers for the rest of the week too. So we had, chicken in the fridge the whole time. We had burgers in the fridge the whole time. And when you're eating, although burgers may not sound that healthy, but if you can I made a burger salad, and it was just lettuce, tomatoes, some other veggies. You just mix in some pickles or whatever, and you lay off the buns and things like that. So you get rid of some of the starchy carbs, and it's great. So that would be a highly suggested recommendation, is look to see how much you can cook and then do that. Now, if you're on a vacation and you're going out to eat, and that's kind of how you guys do it, you go to dinner a lot, you go out to lunch a lot, then you're going to have to be pretty diligent about just sticking with some of the better choices. And that's going to be your meats, your fish, your veggies. So again, as little processed stuff as possible. Lay off the cream sauces, lay off of that stuff, and just be smart about it. Realize that you've got a whole week of this, and every meal doesn't have to be a special occasion where you're splurging and going crazy. And I find that if you can do that, you'll feel much better about the choices that you made the day of and the days after. And then this kind of leads into our third topic, which is, what do you do about exercising when you're on vacation, when you're on a trip like this? And this was a tough one this past week, because I knew going to this resort that we didn't have really any accommodations. So, some people are better at this than others. Some people are just naturally, they get up in the morning, they're like, I got to get my exercise in and get it done, and then I'm ready to go, or I can't start my day without that. And this is where my dad, I've always kind of looked up to him, because he's been a runner for a long time. He's run a couple of marathons, but mainly just played high level soccer, and has always just, running has been his choice of exercise. And he's a very fit guy. He's 62 years old, and I can remember being on vacation, and I'd wake up in the hotel or wherever we were, and Dad would be gone. He'd be out running. He'd come back 30, 40, 50 minutes later. He'd do a couple exercises and stretches, and then he was ready for the day. And I remember asking him one time, like, man, how do you do that every morning or every so often? He's like, I had to mentally prepare myself at one point, and I put my running shorts right by the bed. I put my running shoes right by the bed, and I know that as soon as my alarm goes off, I get up and I put those on immediately, because once those are on, it's done. Then in my brain, it's clicked, and I know I'm going running. But if I hit the snooze, or I get up and I go have a cup of coffee or whatever, he said, then I have time to procrastinate and put it off. So his strategy there was put the shoes on, put the shorts on, and get out the door. And so it might be that you have to figure out what's your strategy going to be going into the week. So a couple of the considerations that I would tell you when you're going to a resort, or you're going on vacation or a trip, is you got to look at what are the accommodations. Are you going to have a gym? Are you going to have cardio equipment? Or are you going to have nothing at all? And which that was the case that we had. We had nothing at all. So a couple other things to look at are, what's your time and what's your availability throughout the week? I knew that our schedule was going to ebb and flow kind of just day to day, and we didn't really know what our plans were going to be, aside from the day we went golfing, the day we went on the nature hike, and those kind of things. But I've got 3 kids, and so that schedule can change moment to moment based on how they're feeling and how, how well behaved somebody is, and nap times and things like that. I've got an 8-year-old, an almost 6-year-old, and an almost 3-year-old. So you have to look at that and be a little flexible too. And then also, what counts as exercise? When you're on a trip, it could be that you're in a location where you're going on hikes every day, and you're doing all these different things, or you're swimming, and you can also look at that a little bit as exercise. When you're doing these things, maybe you don't have to carve out time to go hit the weights or whatever. Maybe this is a great time to switch things up and do things a little bit differently than you normally would in your routine. But a couple considerations for the different situations. If you do have a gym, and depending on how much time you have, again, you're on vacation. You shouldn't be spending all of your time in the gym. But if you want to get the basics done, do a push, do a pull, do a deadlift, do a squat, and again, maybe do a rotational exercise. If you hit those 4 to 5 things, so push meaning, kind of like a chest press or a push-up or something like that. Pull being some sort of a row or a pull-up or something along those lines. A deadlift or kettlebell swing or something like that, and then some sort of a squat. You're hitting pretty much everything, and you're going to be good to go. It may not be the ideal workout that you have planned or written out, but again, if you're in a situation like this, you just want to get something in, that's a great model to follow. Now, if you don't have weights or anything like that, but you've got some cardio equipment, then I recommend looking at doing some sprints, do some high-intensity intervals. Maybe you're going to do a 1 minute on and then 3 to 4 minutes off. You could throw in some stretching and some, soft tissue work then. Roll around on the foam roller a little bit and do that a few times. And I kind of did a hybrid of this on our trip. Then you can also throw in some body weight exercise if you don't have that cardio, or all you have is the cardio equipment, some squats, some push-ups, some bridges, things like that. If you're in an outdoor setting, like I said, go for hikes. Go out and enjoy the land. If you're going to play golf and you have the opportunity to walk, if the course lets you walk or it's a good walking course, do that. If that's something that you don't normally do. Again, it's great to mix it up and change it up. And then if you have nothing whatsoever, then you got to get a little creative, and that's kind of what our trip had, was a lot of creativity. So as we were packing up the car, getting ready to leave, I was thinking, man, I know that there's nothing there fitness-wise, and we don't have a whole lot of stuff at home as far as equipment is concerned, because I work in a gym every day. So I have the opportunity to work out there. But so I grabbed a 30-pound kettlebell and threw it in the back of the van and took it with us and thought, you know what, I can figure something out with this. And so basically the first day or maybe the second day, I took the kettlebell and I just went through a little cycle of some split squats, holding the kettlebell, one in each, or just one kettlebell, held it in one arm and did 10 split squats, and switched arms, did 10 split squats. Then I did some goblet squats, I did some kettlebell swings, and I did push-ups. And all I did was 5 sets of 10 repetitions of each of those. It took about 20 minutes, maybe a little longer than 20 minutes, and I was good to go. I was sweating up a storm. I was doing it in our little cabin while everybody was at the pool. And, that was good for my day. And then we also had a huge hill that went down to the boat dock, for the trucks to lower the boats down into the water. And so one of the days I decided, you know what, instead of the kettlebell workout in the room, I'm going to go tackle that hill over there. And I have to say that most of the people at the resort thought I was crazy, but I didn't care. I walked all the way down to the bottom of the hill down by the boat dock, and I decided, okay, I'm going to get loosened up a little bit, did a little warm up, stretched things out a little bit and got moving. And then I said, all right, I'm going to tackle this baby 10 times. And I'd say, I don't know what kind of a distance it was, but it had to be, it took me probably about, on a full-blown sprint at my fastest, first couple times, it probably took 20 to 30 seconds to get up the hill. I never really timed it. And then what I would do is I would run all the way up the hill, and then I would slowly walk back down, kind of catch my breath. And I'll be honest, my goal was to do it 10 times, and I did 8 of them. It was about 90 to 95 degrees most of the days down there, and I did that 8th one, and I felt like that was plenty before I decided that I might pass out. So I went down, I did a couple other little stretches afterwards, and walked back, jumped in the pool, and that was my workout for the day. And so that, again, using that creativity, finding what you have. And then one other day I did that same thing, but I also took the kettlebell down with me, and I did a couple Statue of Liberty walks up the hill. So a Statue of Liberty walk with a kettlebell, holding one arm straight up over my head, walked all the way up the hill, brought the kettlebell down, and then walked back down the hill, did it with the other arm. And so again, just kind of got creative with it a little bit, to work on a little bit of everything: shoulders, legs, lungs, anything to get my body moving and know that I was using muscles to get stronger. And then just a couple other suggestions. My wife, I walked in one day, she was doing some squats in the living room, some push-ups, and some of those. And then pretty much every day at the pool, she would go and just tread water for several minutes. Just anything to get your body moving. Because let's face it, when you're on a vacation where it's the pool, the lake, the swimming dock, there's a lot of lounging around. There's a lot of opportunities to just kind of hang out and be lazy and have a drink, or have some food or whatever. So we made sure that we actively were participating in some sort of activity to get that in, to counterbalance any of the other stuff that was going on. Okay, let's move on to the 4th topic, which is one that I feel is often skipped over in the fitness world, and usually it's kind of just the topic is drinking. The topic is alcohol. And so in many situations, you just get the flat out response: don't do it. Don't drink. It's bad for you. Well, let's face it. Most of the people listening to this podcast are golfers, and I know a lot of golfers, even high-level golfers, that enjoy having a cocktail or two here and there. And rather than just kind of push it off to the side and not address it, I say let's be realistic, and rather than tell people not to do it, if they're going to do it, let's talk about some better strategies that you can have when you are on vacation or you're on the golf course. As my buddy Jason Glass says, he's from Canada, beer is basically considered vitamin B up there. Well, kind of similar on a lake vacation trip or in the Midwest, there's a lot of beer, okay? Let's just be honest. And so when I grew up, I didn't grow up playing golf, as many of you know. And so when I was in a golf setting, it was a scramble, or it was, a guy's trip. And so beer and golf and drinking kind of went hand in hand. And as I've started working with more competitive golfers, I've seen the other side where, that doesn't occur. And the first time I went out and had a round with one of my clients who's a very competitive golfer, and he didn't have a drink the whole time, and I didn't have a drink the whole time, and I realized how much better I played, I started to realize, maybe there's a correlation here, which sounds kind of silly, but again, not being a golfer, and golf was always just kind of a fun recreational thing at that time. And this was 8 years ago, and now I've seen the changes and the difference. But I also realized that, golf is still about guys' trips and having a lot of fun and going out, but there's better ways of tying in both of those, the social aspect. And so I want to give you four great tips that I've kind of learned over the years that, I share with my clients, but also with my friends. And again, talking in our private Facebook group, we had a whole conversation around this. And it was very refreshing for people to be able to talk about it, or at least they said it was very refreshing because they had never really read much about these strategies or anything like that, because people don't talk about it all that much. So the first one, and it's kind of an obvious one, but it's to just stay hydrated. So hydrate. And that means before your round, that means during your round, that means after your round. That also means throughout your trip. So the same principles apply. So if you're going to the pool, or you're going fishing, or you're going to the golf course, always have something available to hydrate with on hand. So, whether that be a big bottle of water, going to the store and buying a big bottle of Aquafina or whatever it is, or just, having some sort of a water bottle that you carry around with you. In fact, the suggestion that I have is go get yourself a really high quality insulated bottle, like a Yeti, or I have a big hydro flask that my brother bought me for being in his wedding, and it's an awesome, like, insulated. I don't even know how many ounce it is. Probably 32 or 44 ounces. Where I keep cold water in it almost all the time, and that way, even when I was at the pool, or we were down on the fishing dock, or we were in the boat, or on the golf course, have it with you. And that way, you've always got something to drink outside of just your alcoholic beverage, and you'll be surprised at the difference that just that little tip makes, where you're not constantly reaching for the next beer out of the cooler, or whatever alcoholic drink it is. You've got that other drink on hand, and it sounds simple, sounds stupid, but just setting down your beer and reaching for that water is really going to spread out how often you're taking those drinks. So, simple little tip, but it's very, very effective. All right, the second thing is be aware that you are drinking and why you're drinking. Again, most of this revolves around the social aspect and hanging out and having fun and enjoying a cocktail or two. But what I find is that in many situations, it's a social habit to have the drink and just to be sipping on it, as opposed to really enjoying it and enjoying the company. So be aware of why you're drinking. And if you're in a setting and it's social and you're having fun, that's great. But be aware that you have it. Don't just mindlessly drink to be drinking. Have the drink to enjoy it. Have the drink to enjoy your company. But also just kind of create a little bit of awareness and boundary around it, so it's not just out of habit. Okay, and then this kind of ties into the third thing is drink better stuff. Drink more high quality drinks. So craft beers have become a big thing lately. And as you know, I like to imbibe in a beer or two. And so drinking a craft beer is way different than drinking, the beer that you drank in college, or drinking a high-end cocktail with a good, bourbon or whiskey or whatever is different than drinking a rail drink. You're going to enjoy it a little bit more. You're going to take your time with it, and again, kind of enjoy the sips and be aware of it. So you're less likely to just plow through those drinks, and it becomes more of an experience as opposed to just something that you're doing because that's just what you've always done. And then the last tip, and this again is going to sound like kind of a silly one, but is don't start your round with a cooler on your cart. And again, such a simple little thing, but if you start your round and you don't have your drinks with you and you're just drinking your water and you're moving on, have some coffee or whatever with you to start, and many times there isn't an opportunity to get a drink for multiple holes or till the turn, and you start to realize, like, hey, I made it through that 9 holes just fine without a beer or a cocktail or whatever. And so you're starting right out of the gate, and you're not kind of sabotaging your game, because it's a slippery slope. Once you do open up that cooler, you start to drink that beer or cocktail or whatever. So you're going to realize that you don't need that quote unquote swing oil to get yourself on the right track and loosen up, and all the mumbo jumbo that we've heard for years, that I need to loosen up with a beer or two. Well, loosen up with a warm up on the range, and some good short chip shots, and hit the driving range with a couple shots, as opposed to relying on the alcohol to quote unquote loosen you up. So get rid of that mantra. Get rid of the thoughts that, hey, I just need to get rid of the jitters. No, go get there 15 minutes early and warm up like we talked about before. But starting out without a cooler on your cart, and I know this is not going to be very popular with several of my buddies and guys that I do golf with, but that's it's such a great tip that will just kind of set you up for a better round of golf. All right, and then the last major topic that I want to talk about on your trips, golf trips, vacations, whatever, is just remember that you're there to relax, and it's vacation. So most people come back from vacation stressed out, worried about starting the week, the fact that they're behind, getting caught up. Their diet's been crap all week. They've been drinking too much. So utilize this time to really relax and treat your body right, and set yourself up so you are ready to so you are actually refreshed, and you really had a vacation, not just a trip. You had a vacation to then set you up to be more successful the next week in whatever you're doing. So the couple areas I want to touch on here are just, first of all, your work. Minimize it. Do as little work as you possibly can. And this is tough coming from a guy like me who is, a small business owner. I've got a podcast and a website which can be worked on at any time of the day. It requires social media work. It requires, updating things. And so this is one of the things that I struggle with for sure. And, you could probably ask my wife and she would give me a grade on how well I did. But, get as much done as you can before you go on your trip, so you can kind of chill out a little bit more. You've got your work taken care of. Don't procrastinate it and leave it for when you get to the end of the week or during the week. My intention was to get a few things of work done on this past trip, and it turns out there was never any time. It was never a good opportunity. I didn't want to do it. And so, those were things that I procrastinated, and it really kind of backfired on me. And so I didn't get those things done. And now next week when I'm going to have a busier week because of that. And so learn from my mistakes. You want to try to minimize that as much as possible so you can chill out a little bit. Good tip is to leave your phone in a place where you can't hear it or you can't see it. If you need it for emergencies, obviously keep it close, but don't have it right next to you where you see your notifications popping up for Facebook and emails and stuff like that. In fact, turn those notifications off, and don't update your social media your entire vacation. Yes, we know your trip is awesome. Yes, we know everything that you're doing is cool. If you want, take your time and update that stuff later. First of all, for safety, because people will know you're gone. But spend time being in the moment. Take the pictures, capture the moments, but take the time to actually just be there instead of being on your phone updating. Especially again with Father's Day here, that's been a huge thing of mine, is to really become more aware of hanging out with the kids and not spending that much time. So even though I have a bunch of stuff with the website to update and things like that, I did very minimal in that regard. So I think I did fairly well there. The second part is sleep. Sleep can be a tough one when you're on vacation. So do whatever you can to make your room, as our buddy Sean Stevenson says, a sleep sanctuary. So try to make wherever you're staying as close to what you have at home. Try to darken it out as much as you can. Bring your own pillow if you have to. And then a huge thing, and Don Saladino actually talked about this in episode 92, is, your bedtime routines. Don't try not to get too out of kilter as far as when you go to bed, staying up late, sleeping in. Your body will respond much better if you continue to keep your normal routine, or try to go to bed a little bit early in the evening. And that's something that we did pretty well too, was kind of shutting it down fairly early, because we knew we were going to have busy days. It was hot out and everything. So getting to bed at a decent time, and then let yourself wake up naturally. You're on vacation, so you don't need to wake up to an alarm clock. Just let yourself wake up naturally. That's one of my favorite things on vacation, is getting up pretty early, which I just naturally do. Going and having a cup of coffee and maybe reading a little bit, and just sitting out on the deck, enjoying the beautiful scenery of the lake and the trees and all that stuff. So try not to deviate too much from your routine that you would have at home. The third suggestion in this part is, and we kind of alluded to it, is just being present at what you've got going on. Enjoying your trip, enjoying your outing on the golf course. Look around, take your time and appreciate the nature that you're in, or appreciate the setting that you're in. Because usually when you're on a golf course, you're in a pretty incredible spot. And then if you're there enjoying time with your family, your kids, your wife, take time to do that and not be preoccupied with some of the other things that get involved in our daily lives. Like we said, the social media or updating your work stuff or whatever. And then carve out some time, some quiet time just for you, just to chill out. Whether that be, sitting on the dock by yourself. My son and I, we went down and we fished a little bit, and it was so quiet sitting on the lake and just sitting there enjoying that time and looking around and experiencing what we had and being grateful for that time. When you're on vacation, sometimes it flies by, and the beginning of the week, the vacation seems like it's going to be so long, and then all of a sudden it's the end of vacation and you're sad that it's gone. But if you take those moments and you take those pictures and you take some time to just kind of chill out and appreciate it, it makes it that much more memorable. Okay, and the last thing that I find, and I struggled with this a little bit because I wasn't perfect on all these things throughout our trip, is the guilt that you go through when you are making some of these other decisions around, your diet and, what's going on, not getting your work done, those kinds of things. So like I said, this is hard for a business owner. This is hard for a fitness pro, especially, who normally is very strict on diet and workouts and things like that. And so to let go of some of that and remember that you are on vacation and you're allowed to have some fun. You're allowed to eat a little bit bad. You're allowed to have some drinks, obviously within reason and not going too crazy with it. But if you work hard the rest of the year and you kind of follow a lot of the things that we lay out on this podcast, or if you've read the book, The Golfer's Guide to a Bogey-Proof Workout, if you've read some of that and the nutrition things and you follow most of that for the majority of your time, when you go on vacation, celebrate that. Celebrate the fact that you are working hard, that you're training for your golf game, or you're making yourself healthier, and your daily decisions are generally pretty good. And this is the time for you to let loose and not feel guilty about it. That's a big thing in our society, is we'll do something and we'll shame ourselves for it. But if you make those decisions on a regular basis that are good, you can have some freedom. It's that 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule, whatever you want to go by. But realize that the good decisions allow you to let loose and have a little bit of fun. Take the time, enjoy your vacation, and enjoy all the beautiful things that you have and the fact that you were able to do that. So that's my suggestion. I know that some of this was not necessarily very golfy, and I think that you're starting to realize that this podcast is about not just golf and fitness, but also just kind of lifestyle. And I want to help you as a golfer, as an individual, not only play better golf, but be smarter about the way you're living, be healthier, move better, live longer, enjoy life more. So hopefully you'll have a chance to take some sort of a trip or vacation sometime soon, and let me know what are some of the things that you do that work really well for you when you're on a trip, if you do travel a lot. Because again, I plan on going on some cool trips and bringing some content to you guys from these trips, but I'm going to need some help here too. I'm going to need some strategies and some accountability and those kind of things. So if you have any suggestions, by all means, I know there's a lot of you out there that do a lot of traveling, take a lot of golf trips, and I know you've got some feedback that you can give. So once again, thanks for joining on the 18 Strong podcast. And if you want to check out the notes from this episode, or you want to go see some of the links to some of the different things we saw, Top of the Rock, Buffalo Ridge, and I'll even throw in some pictures of our vacation and some of the things that we did, just so you can get a better view of, me and my family, get to know us a little bit more and our experience. You can find that at 18strong.com. Just search for episode number 93, and you'll find it. If you haven't gotten your hands on a copy of The Golfer's Guide to a Bogey-Proof Workout, go over to bogeyproofworkout.com. You'll find it there. It's available on Amazon as well. Thanks again for joining me on this episode, and I'll catch up with you next week. Train hard, practice smart, play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.